Hi, I'm Amber Stacey. I am the creative director of Studio Tinkerhaus in Melbourne, Victoria, and I am a stop motion animator, an academic, and a needle felting artist. I was born in a tiny little bush town called Wodonga in Victoria, Australia. However, I very quickly moved to WA in Western Australia, and I grew up in the country. I've spent most of my life in Perth growing up in the bush. The thing I love most about Perth is probably the beaches. It's very relaxing. It's a great place to take the dog down for a walk. I have a Labrador. His name is Banjo. He used to earn money on YouTube a long time ago, but he's pretty much an old man now. There are many wonderful people in my life, but the most important of all would have to be my partner, Denise, of 17 years. And I have a 2-year-old, Oscar. He pretty much just thinks he's Lightning McQueen. So I live, breathe, eat, sleep, talk, all things cars, every day, all day. It's my life at the moment. The game I am currently developing is a 2.5D puzzle adventure platformer called Bones Wandering Soul. It is the story of a small skeleton who is disconnected from his coffin. The player's objective is to help Bones find his way back to his coffin through undertaking a variety of missions whilst trying to blend into the real world, kind of in order to reveal clues about his past. Earlier this year, I was fortunate to receive funding from Screen Australia's Emerging Game Makers Fund to explore this idea of the game. So this has really allowed me to assemble a small indie team and experiment with the concept. For us, it's been a huge achievement seeing this concept come to life, which we're very excited to explore further. I think we all have a story to tell from COVID in 2020. And this story is a result of my personal journey through COVID. It emerged unexpectedly. It popped into my head just before I was to begin a new semester of my master's. And I just woke up one morning with this little dead guy running around my head. And I just felt like the world was very broken during that time. And it still feels very broken, to be honest, 4 years later. So I feel like this idea of acceptance and inclusion and really learning to accept ourselves and our differences is very important to share, and accepting one another for our individuality and who we are. I truly stumbled into indie development and never had any specific goals of doing it. I've spent the majority of my life in theatre and dance with a life goal of studying musical theatre, and I fell down a pathway of graphic design and motion graphics. And over a decade, I spent my time working in a bunch of different ad agencies, small boutique studios, digital agencies, and event companies. And it wasn't until I actually began lecturing in digital design and media that I realized how incredibly stagnant my creative life had become. And I was starting to feel really flat and just uninspired by everything. And I just thought, if not now, when? So I enrolled into MAGI, which is the Masters of Animation, Game Design, Interactivity at RMIT University in Melbourne, which kind of opened this whole new world to me. Growing up, I could only really play games visiting my friends' homes, which was a bunch of things like Super Mario Brothers, WWE Wrestling, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot. I grew up with this understanding that games was made by very intelligent boys that did computer science. It wasn't really a thing back in the day to see girls making games and being taught that game dev was so much more than just programming. For me, game development is very similar to theatre, and since exploring this career pathway, I have learnt that there seems to be a whole underground of theatre people now working in game development, which is incredibly inspiring and encouraging. The studio that I founded earlier this year, Studio Tinkerhaus, is a place, a creative hub, my creative house as such, for both animation and games. Bones is going to be a long slog. It's going to be a big journey, and it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint with that one. But in the meantime, I'll definitely be working on animations, game jams. There is a second game that I am brainstorming at the moment, which is going to be heavily influenced by my life story. So I'm really kind of keen to explore that further. And for me, it is a chance to explore or create an experience that combines my love of theatre with the lighting, the set design, materials, storytelling, music, and audience engagement with interesting characters and animation, all just bundled into this giant interactive narrative.